This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It started out as what many thought would be a boondoggle known as Clinton's Ditch. But now, celebrating the bicentennial of its completion, the Erie Canal proved the naysayers were all wet. I'm Mark Webster, and today's destination is the Erie Canal Museum in Syracuse, New York.
I've got me a mule, her name is Sal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker and a good old pal. 15 miles on the Erie Canal.
Derrik Pratt is the museum's Director of Operations and Educational Programs, and he's understandably excited about celebrating 200 years of the Erie Canal being a life-giving artery traversing upstate New York. This is a big year for the Erie Canal. I imagine it has to be, as a result, a big year for the Erie Canal Museum as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's the bicentennial of the opening. We've been doing bicentennial commemorations for 8 years now, from when they started in 1817 digging the canal, but this is the big year for both the canal and the Canal Museum.
Well, if my grade school history isn't failing me, they called it Clinton's Ditch, I believe, way back in the day when they were building it, and people didn't think too much about it when it was first getting built.
Yeah, so it was a controversial project at the start. DeWitt Clinton, who was eventually elected governor of New York, was the big proponent of it, thought that New York State itself could build the canal, and this was a huge undertaking, 363 miles through the frontier, essentially, of the country. There were no trained engineers here at the time, so people thought this was something that couldn't be done, but Clinton and his allies did think that New Yorkers could accomplish this huge task, and they did.
His vision was spot on, too. It turned out to be something that, in a lot of ways, changed not only New York State, but really the world.
Oh, for sure, yeah. It would have a transformative effect on New York in general. Transportation times were cut from about 1 month to less than a week from Buffalo to New York City, and transportation costs were cut from about $100 a ton to less than $10 a ton. So this has an enormous impact on all of New York. Cities like Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica spring up practically overnight. Meanwhile, New York City became America's primary port, and then all the cities of the Midwest, too, owe their kind of origins, places like Cleveland and Chicago, to the opening of the canal. And it's not just the big cities, too. Small towns all along the bank also see huge growth and economic development.
And even though the canal maybe has been supplanted in terms of commerce, it still is quite a viable source of recreation for a lot of folks in upstate New York.
For sure, yeah. There's still tons of recreational boating that goes on, but also in 2020, we completed the Empire State Trail, which just last year had 4 million people biking, hiking, running, etc. It's a great place to visit.
Well, all of that background really serves to take us to the Canal Museum itself. Such rich history for your facility to draw on. Take us through it a little bit here. What are some of the main things people see if they come to visit the Erie Canal Museum?
Sure. So we're right in downtown Syracuse, located on Erie Boulevard, which was the former Erie Canal. They paved it over in the 1920s when they built the modern canal. And we're housed in what we usually consider our most important artifact, which is our 1850 Waylock building. That's W-E-I-G-H, lock. Essentially, it's kind of a toll booth for the canal. You would have brought your boat into what's called the weigh chamber. They'd drained all the water out, and they could weigh your boat and figure out how much you were carrying. You then had a toll assessed on it. That's how the state paid off the canal. And if you come to the Canal Museum today, one of the big highlights is the recreated boat that we have in the weigh chamber as well. Likewise, the Waylock building, there were 7 of them across the state. All of them were knocked down except our building, which was saved in 1962, which is when the museum was founded. And to our knowledge, there are no other existing Waylock buildings in the rest of the world. So in itself, it's pretty exciting. We also have extensive exhibits on the history of the canal, both across New York State and looking at how it impacted Syracuse. Plus, we have like a recreated canal town upstairs as well.
Tell me a little bit more about that. There are a lot of, you can still see modern versions of canal towns that sprang up all up and down the 300 plus miles of the canal. So what was one like?
We have most of the things you would see. We've got your general store. The Erie Canal is huge in allowing people in upstate New York to access goods that they never had before. We have accounts of people walking like 50 miles to get a single bag of flour before the canal. After that, as the sign in our general store says, anything we don't have, you don't need, right? They could just get you everything. But likewise, we also highlight all the industries that rise up along the banks of the canal, like Syracuse pottery. We have a recreated tavern, which, in addition to being a place to get a drink after a long day on the canal, was a place to also socialize and learn the latest news and gossip in town. And then there's also our recreated theater, because in addition to all the economic prosperity that the Erie Canal brings, it also introduces new arts and culture and social movements to the canal as well. Tons of theaters would spring up along the canal. There would be circuses that would travel up and down the canal, as well as a lot of different lecturers and speakers, as well as preachers and revivalists moving up and down, which resulted in the Erie Canal becoming this important center for a lot of different religious movements and reform movements throughout New York as well.
Fascinating. You touched on this briefly, I think. Among the other big exhibits there is a full-size replica boat. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's the Frank Buchanan Thompson. We built it in the late 1980s, and it's a model of what's called a line boat, which was the type of boat that could carry both cargo and passengers, and folks can walk on board the boat. We have a pillar you can move to pretend steer the boat. You're actually on where Erie Canal water used to be, and then you get to see what living in a canal boat would have been like. We like to remind visitors that these boats operated 24/7 the whole spring and summer long. Then you get to walk through the cargo hold, which actually has activities for children that was recently installed in it. We've got a little like puppet theater and coloring area, and then you get to go into the passengers' cabins and see what it would have been like to travel on board a canal boat during the heyday of the canal. And people are always shocked by that, and how small the bunks are, etc. And also how cramped it was.
Yeah, especially the original canal was smaller, right?
Yep, the first one was 40 feet wide and 4 feet deep. When they called it Clinton's Ditch, they weren't really joking.
It's got to be neat for kids, especially to come through here and get a tour. They probably, I'm hoping they still teach about things like the history of the Erie Canal in school, and to actually get a chance to see what it was really like, it's got to be a real eye-opener for them.
Yeah, they do still teach it in school. It's part of the fourth grade curriculum in New York State. We had about 3,000 kids come through the museum this year, and we also have a lot of things for kids if they're not on field trips as well. Like I mentioned, we've got that area inside the boat, but also we just began partnering with the Erie Canalway National Heritage Corridor to have a Junior Rangers program. We have a little workbook that kids can get to learn more about the canal, and at the end you get a little Junior Ranger badge from the National Park Service. Plus the Boy Scouts have an interesting badge kids can get. You don't even have to be a member of Scouting. You just have to walk, I believe, 15 miles on the canal, just like the song, and visit a couple of canal sites and learn more about the canal.
So if somebody wants to learn more, say they're going to plan a trip, what's the best way to go about it?
I would suggest checking out eriecanalmuseum.org. Also, eriecanalway.org is a great resource for people to learn about events happening all throughout the canal corridor.
That's Derrik Pratt, Director of Operations and Educational Programs at the Erie Canal Museum in Syracuse, New York. This has been Family Life Staycations, a weekly summertime feature highlighting great places to visit around the Family Life listening area. Please join us again next time as we hit the road again for another Family Life Staycation.
Come on! Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.